that's what they have to do. Like, just like with you, that's exactly what when they talked about the lawyer on on violation is what the podcast is called. When they were going in there, that's what they had to do to get the other guy off, is they had to call into question the factors they were considering. But in their case, like, you didn't get to be seen. They got to, like, this guy actually got to be called in and seen every time he went up for parole.
Which is I think that's so much better, because you actually have a chance to plead your case and you get your answer right then and there. You don't sit there. I mean, one time it took me 6 months to get an answer one time, and it was a freaking set off, you know?
Yeah.
On top of all that, you have they don't even tell you why they set you off. I mean,
they give you the same blanket freaking.
They give you a sheet of paper that has one or more of these factors. You don't even know.
I read that in the parole and pardons guidelines. It's the same factors. They use the same factors that can grant you parole are the same factors that they can use to deny you parole. So whatever your answer is, if you don't get a set off, they're not going to give you a reason why they didn't give you a set off. But if they give you a set off, which for those of you listening, the reason a set off, it means that you did not make parole and you are set off for a number of years. For
sentence you.
Right, they re-sentence you.
A number of years until you're going to be able to see parole again.
Basically, if you make parole, they're not going to give you a reason why you made parole. You don't care anyway. You made parole. But if you don't make it, they're not going to give you a reason why either. They're just going to give you a blanket list that they can choose from. And it doesn't matter. A lot of times they'll say severity of the offense, and that's it.
Yes. It's like,
which was taken into account by whoever sentenced you to begin with, to determine that you should be eligible for parole at this time.
Right.
How that could ever possibly be a reason for denial of parole, I don't know. That never has made any sense.
And not only that, but then how about the discretionary mandatory supervision? You know, like these people come in now, it's like they do the, RMS or DMS, or, it's like deny mandatory supervision or remand mandatory supervision. Like, I'm old law. So when my good time, flat time, work time equals my sentence, I'm out the door. Doesn't matter if I'm sitting in, close custody or not, I'm out,
That was our reason for being slaves, was that we weren't slaves. We were buying our freedom back by working this many hours and getting we would get work time. So basically we were supposed to be working down our sentence by working out in the fields or whatever jobs that we were able to get. But it used to be mandatory supervision, so that if I work X number of years, that would take X number of years off my sentence, and then I could get, and then that makes it, I will be able to get out quicker. But now it's discretionary mandatory, which is an oxymoron. So now they can choose that, or in my case, it's not even an option. Work time never helped my sentence. It did not make me see parole faster.
Good time. Good time nor work time.
Does nothing.
That's all. That's always been a real joke. It's kind of funny whenever you bring that up to people that work in TDC or guards, or they're completely confused by it, because they're under the belief that, when you're good time and your work time equal out, then you'll go home, man.
Nope, not. Yeah, I would, but not.
You'll have 150% of your sentence done on paper, and still be sitting in prison.
Yeah, I had over 100% of my sentence done on paper, and still, not only did I leave with over 100% of my sentence done, I get out and then I have to go on parole.
Right, and you actually sign away all that good time if it ever mattered, anyways. I remember I was arguing with Calvin about that. I mean, the people out there in podcast land don't know who Calvin is, but
you want to explain who Calvin is?
No,
I'm sure you have a great explanation.
Calvin's a great guy, but he
is.
His explanation is Calvin is a Sasquatch, but
A Sasquatch.
Yeah, he's a mythological creature that lives up in the Pacific Northwest. Rainforest and him, Rainforest, whenever he was on one of his expeditions into the wilds of the Yukon territory, and researching certain botanical features of plants that most people don't even know exist, bumped into this Sasquatch out there, and they started hanging out with each other. Well, anyways, Calvin turned out he named him Calvin, and he ended up being a pretty good guy. So Calvin and I were debating one time because he was real excited because they were talking about passing some kind of good time law. But the good time law, or maybe they made some kind of change to the guidelines that said that your good time and your flat time equal out to half your sentence, or up. I think it was up to half your sentence or something. Then you'll be eligible for parole. I was like, well, how does that change any dang thing? I mean, that doesn't matter as long as they're still leaving it up. As long as your good times not being taken as actual time off of your sentence, it means nothing because it just puts you in the same position as everybody else is in. Anyways, you're subject to the parole board.
Yeah, you're still up to the parole board, and they're not going to, based on whatever you got charged for, it's not going to, like, it just totally depends on the charge.
Then what? They had like there's been a few legal cases about this, and I don't know enough about the law to know which case to look up and all that. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, they've had a couple of judges, because TDC has always used this good time law as sort of it does count whenever they want it to count. In other words, whenever the slavery issue comes up, they mention, well, they're not really slaves. They get work time and good time. So that's their payment for all their labor. But then whenever it comes to catching a major case, and you start arguing, well, okay, they took my good time from me, so that means now I have some kind of, you have to have some kind of higher level of proof before you can, increase my prison sentence. And then TDC's like, well, good time doesn't mean anything. I mean, it doesn't change your prison sentence. It's not going to get you out of prison. It's one way whenever they want it to be one way, and then it's another way whenever they don't want it to be.
Right.
And some judges have actually mentioned that in the paperwork, and they're like, y'all are going to have to figure this out, because what y'all are doing right now, this doesn't make any sense.
Right. Dave, what were you going to say?
I'll say the deck is stacked against us, just in general. They can, because just like they can use the same reasons for denial of parole or giving parole. Same thing with everything else. It's all stacked against us.
Absolutely. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about on here was that, like, so if for those listening, if they haven't listened to the Violation podcast put on by the Marshall Project, they talk about someone going through the parole process in Arizona. And if you listen to it, Arizona's parole process sounds a lot like how you might envision parole, or maybe how you saw parole being done in the Shawshank Redemption, where someone actually sits in front of a parole board. But in Texas, that is not what happens, because none of us saw someone. Like, we did not get to see a physical person.
You just don't see somebody from the parole board.
You see somebody I had one of, like, you see somebody who's filling all your paperwork, is gonna send it to somebody else who's just gonna go look at the recommendation made by the unit parole officer, and you're gonna think, oh, I got 50 other files I got to look at today. What's this assessment? Oh, they said okay. All right, fine, good, bye, done.
And as you see with the Pamela Friedman case, they've already got their mind made up long before they ever even see your paperwork.
I completely believe that too.
And I'm sure if I was looking at J. Randall Smith, who's a big parole attorney in Texas, he's like one of the most expensive parole attorneys in Texas. And also when I talked to my parole attorney, they both told me that parole boards don't look at people's files. Like, they really don't spend a whole lot of time on individual files. J. Randall Smith, he said, this is what he told me when he was trying to sell me on hiring him. He said, look, the average amount of time that a parole board member spends on looking at someone's file is 30 seconds. He says the average time that they spend looking on someone who's my client's file is 2 minutes. And that was his sell point. I know. That's like, that is going to determine your freedom.
Yeah.
Is
it hangs in the balance of
90 seconds.
2 minutes.
Yeah. And I know, and it's an amazing improvement, and it's horrifying. And the worst part is that the parole board doesn't even work together. First they hand it off to the lead voter. The lead voter looks at it for their 30 seconds. They vote, and then they hand off everything that they had, that same information, plus they hand off, they tell the other voter what their vote was. So the second voter already knows what the first voter says. The third voter doesn't even get to vote unless there's a disagreement between the first two.
Yeah, unless they need a swing vote. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And they pretty much always follow the lead vote, is what I hear.
Exactly.
And
why wouldn't they? Because they've been influenced already.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. The situation doesn't sound like any kind of real decision making is being. You gotta wonder too, because I mean, if you're in prison long enough, you'll see the same people just keep getting out and coming back. You know, it's especially as cynical as it might sound. I mean, it seems to be like cases like pedophiles and things like that. The kind of cases that you would always think, "Oh, that guy's never getting out, or shouldn't be let out." The people that you meet in prison that you think to yourself, man, that dude's dangerous. I hope they don't ever let that guy out. That kind of thing. That is the main person that's going to make his first parole.
And I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking about this with someone.
That's why I think you made your first parole, Rainforest.
Oh, thank you no. So I was talking about this with someone the other day, and I told him the same thing. It was about like, I think it seems like sex offenders always tend to make their first parole.
When a certain pedophile that you and I know made parole a third time on his third offense, before I'd even made parole once, I've been watching this guy get out, rape kids, come back to prison, and then get out again and rape more kids and come back to prison, and then make parole again. I was almost certain I was never getting out. Whenever he made parole, for his third time before I made parole, I thought, oh, that's it. Something's wrong.
All right. I'm trying to figure out who that one is, but we can talk about that one.
I'm not going to say any names.
Yeah, I know. After the show, we can discuss that. But here's the thing I was going to say is that I strongly feel like there's incentives for them to actually to send people who are out on for them to send them back out. There's some sort of incentive.
So like the people that they know are going to come back?
No, not that. It's that these are people. So the sex offenders, I feel like the state actually makes money off of them when they're out. And I asked actually someone I knew who is currently out on parole. I asked them, I'm like, are they like charging you? Like, are you having to pay to be on this list and being tracked and everything? And he's like, and they're like, I have to re-register every year, like get a new driver's license every year. Like that's how they check in. So they have to do it. They actually do get a discount on it, but they do have to pay for this registration and stuff like that too. And so like I feel like there's things that go along with it. There's something about it. Like there's something that seems like there's some sort of incentive for them to let them out, because we've seen it too many times where
they're obviously not trying to let people out that are going to stay out. I mean, it seems to me like maybe they want a high crime rate and recidivism rate for a certain reason. Maybe I mean, I remember in the early '90s whenever they couldn't fill up the prisons that they built. Ann Richards built 100 new units, and went out on a podium and claimed had a vision that said, if we build it, they will come, and then they didn't. And then so what they did was just jack everybody that was already out on parole for their parole. They filled up half of TDC with parole violators.
And they were making them do like 4 or 5 years on it.
Doing 5 to 8 years on it. Man, I'm talking about those guys were in. And it was I had to think that maybe they had to justify building all those prisons. I mean, something like this.
No, you think about it, some of those prisons, it's the only reason why that town is there, because it's more, you know.
And that's another aspect of it. They're mothballing prisons because they can't find people that want to work there.
I mean, who wants to work there?
The pay is, I mean, it's the bottom of the barrel job. There's no air conditioning. Who wants to work in that?
It's dangerous. It's a horrible job. Like I said, there was 41 inmates who died of heat illness, and then there's also 35 employees who reported heat-related illness. So, it's dangerous and awful work, and they want you to work all of the time. And you could report to work one day, and they could send you to another part of the state to work. So
that's a whole another topic right there, is transportation within the Texas prison and how they take people and they'll send you to 5 different units over, like a 2-year period, when they could have just put you in processing and put you on a unit and let you stay there. I mean, people get moved around all the time for nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not for nothing. They move people around tactically. They try not to keep. I mean, you think of that. You mentioned the riot earlier. Right after you have a riot, there's going to be a mass shipment of inmates, and they're going to scatter them throughout TDC. That's how they're never going to allow something like inmates to consolidate a group or power or anything like that. They will spread you out real quick.
I feel that, but it's like there's so much wasted movement. Think about the labor, all the labor that's going into that, the gas, vehicle maintenance, and everything else. How much money could be used for something else, but they're using on bullshit labor? I mean, on bullshit transportation. It's crazy.
You're talking about this is a money issue.
No, I said it's a whole nother topic. Like, they waste so much money in prison on so many different things. I mean, think about all the water that's wasted in prison. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been on a run with all the water worked right?
Oh yeah, I'll mop it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
squeegee it to the back door.
Oh my God, it's just crazy.
I ruined plenty of good shoes doing that.
I think about that all the time when people say like prison's all about it's all about making money, but I'm like, I think about how much money that's wasted constantly in prisons.
Look, if you think about it in the terms of that Michael Collins guy that we were talking about.
That's a whole.
It's the right people are making money. The economy in general isn't benefiting from it. It's just that certain people that are in power are benefiting greatly from it.
I think of Securus. Securus is making money hand over fist.
They're killing it. And Securus, they dropped the charge on the phones because once the phone system was paid for, once they got paid back for what they put in to put the phone system in, is when they dropped their price. And so it's all profit.
Took the limit on. At first, there was a limit on phone calls, and
15 minutes, and
it was like 2-3 calls a week or something like that you could make. And they got rid of all that real quick when they found out how much money they could make. The calls were a lot more expensive then too, though. Yeah,
but that's the deal. So when the price just dropped super drastically, it's because it was all jacked up for so many years because it was paying back what they put into, for putting it in.
Right.
Which is crazy.
And now they're the only ones. They're a monopoly on it in prisons. Just like
Aramark is getting involved with shit too. It's crazy.
Well, that's a political issue in general. And I don't even know when you start thinking about the money and taxes and all this and the idea of America having to borrow money from China. I always tried to wrap my head around that. Why do they tax Americans at all? Why is there any tax whatsoever on Americans if we're just going to borrow $20 trillion from China anyways? And we have a printing press that all our money is just based on nothing but some kind of security on of the American economy or whatever. I'm not even sure what it's based on. It's not based on anything. They just print as much money as they want, make it out of thin air. So why do they need me to turn around and give money back to them?
I don't know.
How does that make any sense at all? Other than maybe they just don't want me to ever have anything.
Well, the more money they print, the less it's worth.
Well, this is true. That much is true. You're absolutely right. And so the more money they're able to take out of the hands of the general public, the more the value that the people at the top will have in the money that's going to them. But we're not really talking about that. I mean, I guess we are in a certain kind of way. But you're saying that the money issue on all that's wasted, shipping in inmates.
No, I mean think about it. Just labor. So you're moving people around. Say you've got what, 2 guards, right? Then you've got 2 or 3, yeah. And it's like just the amount of just what it costs, what they spend in just labor to pay those officers to do that. It's like it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's okay. So from a business standpoint, I mean, if you're trying to save money, if you're trying to make money, if you're trying to cut costs, and they're always talking about they don't have any money, so where are you spending? Where are you losing money? One, you've got a bunch of wasted labor going to transportation. You don't need all that transportation. And not only that, but then you've got all the people in the count rooms that are doing the moves and this, that, and the other, people in classification. So now you've got all these people involved that nobody ever thinks about, but all of that, the time that they put into like saying, okay, this guy's going to go from here to here, and this guy from here to here, and this to here to here to here to here. So it's just dumb.
And if you want an easier way to think about it, Malone, time is money. Like, someone's getting paid, and if they're sitting on their hands, then if you waste time, then that's a waste of money. How much time has been wasted in prisons by everyone? The Shakedown was produced in luxurious Longmont, Colorado. Envato Elements provided our theme song, Shakedown. If you want to support us, you can find Shakedown shirts, hoodies, and more at waywordpress.com. That's WAYWORD press.com. If you have ideas for future episodes or cool stuff you want to see us make, let us know in the comments on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at GetTheShakedown.